Pineapple. Chia's mother Mucha and I were born to be married. Her father was a farmer of note whose industriousness and harvests were famed and spoken of in village upon village. My own father was a carver, and he carved for kings and queens and the wealthy people of the villages near and far. It was no surprise that the two men were friends because after a hard day of work, they would seek each other and drink either in my father's dairy or in Mucha's father's dairy. Mucha's father adored his last-born girl and should always be seen walking beside him or behind him in the village. To anyone who would listen, he would say, "This last-born of mine is for me, and she will keep me sane in my old age." As such, when he came to visit my father's dairy, he would bring the little girl with him. As I was not much older than Mucha, my father would call me, "Piwai, Piwai, come and play with Mucha," whenever her father brought her around. So while the two men talked about the weather or whether the new young king would be able to run the village as efficiently as his late father had done, Mucha and I would play chicheru, chasing each other around the homestead, or hide and seek, looking for the most outrageous places to hide. Still, whenever it was my father's turn to visit, he would call out, "Piwai, Piwai, let's go to see your little friend." So our little friendship blossomed and grew stronger as we grew up. Before we knew it, we were inseparable, always by each other's side like shadows. By the time we were 10 years old, our marriage was already being prophesied by the whole village. Our eventual marriage brought together our families, and our fathers became more than just friends, but also relatives. In our heart, on the land we had been gifted by our fathers to build our own family from, we were happy and carefree. Our marriage was easy, as we had had all the disagreements we could have had when we were kids. We found it easy to speak in one voice as we already knew what either of us was thinking. And when little Chiesa was born, we were more than happy. "I wanted to have a son first, though," Mucha said as she held the newborn girl. "I wanted to give you an heir first." But I had looked at the unseeing eyes blinking upwards at me, and an overwhelming feeling of love had rushed through my body. I had never felt this way, even for my wife. "I do not care," I told Mucha. "We shall have sons in the future. For now, I am content with this gift you have given me." But we never got to have the sons, for when Shiedza had just turned 4 years old, her mother was seized by a violent illness that led to night-long coughs, sweats, and shivers. We called upon herb doctor after herb doctor, but nothing seemed to help. Until one night she stopped coughing, and I, thinking she was better, had allowed myself a brief respite and closed my eyes before the coughing would start again. But she never did cough again. And when I jolted awake at dawn, her blank, vacant eyes were looking unseeing at me, and her body was as cold as the ground. After losing the woman I had loved, I began to immerse myself into my work. Having lost my father shortly after my wife's death, I overtook his shed and started to make carvings for his clients and partners. Working with stone and wood and allowing my imagination to draw patterns and weave shapes onto my products helped me to forget her laughter, her voice, her scent. Chiedza took after her mother. She had her mother's ebony skin and the same big eyes that would pop with excitement or fear whenever she was startled. She also had her mother's gait of preferring the left foot over the right foot, and in so many ways, I saw my childhood friend in her. Looking back, if someone were to ask me how devoted I was to Chiesa after her mother passed, I would say I was devoted enough. I did better than most men in the village who were scared to invest in new skins for their daughters and often opted for skins sold second-hand because they sold their daughters as other men's future properties. I lavished on my daughter. She liked no good thing. Should always say to me, after spending time with some of your friends in the village, "Baba, all the girls were looking at my skins, telling me I had the best skins in the village. Oh, do you know that the other girls were shocked that I eat the liver of a cow because it is a meat that not even their mothers have eaten, just their fathers? So yes, I did spend lavishly on my daughter. She was well cared for." However, the bone of contention with my family was my marital status. When am I going to hold your son? My mother, old and grey and well advanced in age, would ask. I shall die before I hold the heir to your father's empire. You shall not marry, I tried to reassure her. Oh, I shall, she would say. Imagine all that your father ever worked for will go to Chia's husband, simply because you do not want to remarry. Perhaps it was because I met so many women, but always I would look for my childhood friend in them and not find her. Perhaps it was because I had become accustomed to working myself into a stupor in my shed that by the time I was done, I was too tired to think of marrying. My friends would bring processions of women, young and old, before me, but none of them would pique my interest. In my heart, I had resigned to myself that Chieza would be my sole heir, and the lucky man should marry would take over my wealth. Until I met her. When I met Shantai for the first time, she was just another woman who had come to inquire about carvings. Of course, I'd slightly been taken aback that a woman would come into my shed unaccompanied by a husband or a brother or a servant, but she told me she was a widow and her husband had left her a fortune so sizable, all she had to do was live in luxury for the rest of her life. That first day, she left an order for an intricate set of stools that she needed for her sitting room, and she told me she would be back later with the cow for payment. When she came back, she had no cow, and even though I never let out a carving without receiving payment first that day for the first time, I did. I remember staring into her eyes and my eyes melting into them. They were the darkest shade of brown, and all I could think of then was whether all eyes were as dark as hers. Her scent filled my nostrils and the heart, and I found myself longing for a woman in a way I had never done before, even for Mucha. That second day she came. As she sat before me, I began wondering how many cows would be needed to marry off a widow. I wondered what my mother would say about marrying a widow too. Of all the women in the world, you want to marry someone who has been subordinated to another man? What difference is there in marrying me instead? She would likely ask. But for the first time since Mucha's death, I felt ready to marry again. And I did. Life changed after I got married. Way before, after work, I would take a stroll around my homestead to see if the servants were doing their jobs, around the crows to count my livestock to ensure no one was selling them off, or around the fields to see the state of my new crops. Now my new wife had a busy social calendar. She had quickly made friends in the village, although she was new, and being a cover's wife and having a wealthy inheritance in her husband's village, she quickly became respected. Every night, we had visitors to entertain, and a hen or a goat would be slaughtered depending on the title of the visitor. Every night, we drank the millet beer brewed by the servants and danced to the beauty of my new daughter's voice. I did not notice I was struggling to finish orders because in the mornings my head would be on fire and would feel like someone was continually shoving it onto the ground. I did not notice too that some of my customers were disgruntled with my service and were not coming back. I failed to notice that my lack of oversight over the crows and the fowl runs was leading to a slow and steady depletion of the livestock. My father first, then I, had painstakingly amazed. But above all, I forgot Chieza. When visitors would ask, "Where is your girl?" I would shrug and say, "She has never liked attention or a lot of people. She's a little bit shy, so she went to sleep early." Of course, I would see her sometimes working around the house or going to the stream to fetch water, and your new mother would laugh. "Look at you worrying that your girl is balancing water atop her head. You spoiled her, and as a mother, I have to teach her how to run her homestead one day. She has to unlearn from your spoiling." I know in the first days she would come to me to whine about not having skins or trinkets, and I would laugh. "I spoiled you, little one. Now I have to prepare you for a future we are uncertain of. Imagine if you were to marry a poor man. Would you complain of skins to him?" She never whined again. Now, the king's eldest son was returning from initiation. He had been in the mountains for 3 months, as was the custom for the next in line for kinship. kingship. As we returned, the search for a wife would begin, and all eligible families and girls thus jostled for space to be picked as the queen mother. When when Sakai was invited to sing, my wife was excited. We need new skins, Baba, she said, shifting from foot to foot excitedly. Who knows, perhaps soon you'll be related to the king by marriage. The excitement in the homestead was palpable as dressmakers came to take measurement for all of us and brought lion, cheetah, and zebra skins for us to choose from. The night before the end of initiation ceremony, I was told I had an important visitor at the shed. Abandoning the guests we had that night, I went to the shed, wondering who it could be at such an unholy time in the night. I was taken aback to find the Queen Mother in the shed, marveling at some of my creations in the dim light. Of course, I had made carvings for the royal families before, but not once had an immediate member of the family come to visit me directly. Instead, I would have been summoned to her homestead, or at least have had an aide sent with a message for a carving. I quickly prostrated myself to the ground and said, "Your Highness," in as dignified a voice as I could muster. She did not beat around the bush and asked if Chieza was attending the ball. I shook my head. "No, Your Highness. She has not made it known to me she wishes to attend. Also, we have not made any preparations for her to attend and sing the ceremonies tomorrow night. I am afraid it will be too late." For a moment, the Queen Mother was silent. Then she cleared her throat. The end of initiation ceremony has traditionally been for all virgin girls in the village, no matter their social status. Should Chieza not attend the ceremony tomorrow, then trust that you and your family will be called to answer. She rose and added, "And we do not want that, sir." With a flourish, her animal skin gown whooshing behind her, she left the tent. I sat in the shed for a while, listening to the festivities going on as my wife entertained their visitors. I knew even before I could broach the subject to her that there was no way she would allow Chieza to attend the ceremony. The end. Thank you again for coming to my channel. Thank you for leaving views, likes, and subscriptions in my previous videos. This is part 4 of the African Cinderella series, where we reimagine Cinderella in a pre-colonial African context. Of course, you are welcome to view and watch these in any order that you want to, except the last one, which then tells the story of everyone else. So you're welcome to watch all 4, which are going to be in the playlist at the end that I will pin. This story is also made up of 5 installments, which are told from the perspective of all the main characters in Cinderella. So please do check out that playlist so that you can enjoy. Don't forget to leave likes, comments, suggestions, and of course, do leave subscriptions as well. Love you long time. Bye.